our next speaker, Julie James. Julie is the co-founder of Drought Juice. Did everybody get a drought juice today? Awesome. I love drought juice. I have like bottles and bottles. We need to talk about those bottles because I use them for everything.
They can be recycled.
For everything. So I will let you, I think you have some remarks for us?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
so I sit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us about yourself and your background and what you do and...
Okay. So if you had a sample today, you tried some of our product. It's called Drought. It is 100% organic cold pressed raw juice. I started the business with my three sisters, in the fall of 2010. We have 6, soon to be 4, because we're consolidating retail shops around Southeast Michigan, and we also have a wholesale line that you can purchase online and throughout the Midwest and the East Coast. So that's the actual product, and that's the business. But what I wanted to share today, based on some of the things we talked about in preparing for this, was it was never really about the juice. And I know that sounds a little kind of cliche or maybe misguided for what our business was, but it was more so at the time my sisters and I all wanted to take control of our lives. And it just so happened that we all kind of aligned at the same time. We all came from very different careers and things that we were working on. At the time, my youngest sister, Jenny, who's not here, she's not yet a mother, but she'd like to be.
We welcome aspiring moms.
Yes, aspiring mom. She is an aspiring mom. She couldn't make it today. She just finished art school and was a little aimless, so she moved to New York City, and she joined my other 2 sisters, Jessie, who was at the height of her career as a celebrity hairstylist at the time, making great money and just living the dream, but really not quite feeling like she was living the dream at the time. And then my sister Caitlin, who had just returned from the Peace Corps and was nannying for a well-off family and kind of had found a nice gig for herself in the city as well, but just wasn't feeling as though she was really, finding what she needed from it. The less glamorous part about my life at that time was I had a baby in diapers, and I had decided that I was going to get divorced, and that it wasn't for me anymore, and it wasn't serving me. Her father was struggling with addiction, and I realized that if I had to do what I had to do to be the best mother that I could be, that I had to do it on my own, and I had to do it in the absence of him. So on that very day, actually, oddly enough, that same day that I made that decision, I spoke with my sister Caitlin, and we had kind of thrown around this idea of everyone was getting a little sick of their gig out in New York, and we saw an opening in the market for juice here in the Midwest. And I said, I have to make a decision right now. I have to do something. I have to feel like I am drawing a line in the sand, and I'm coming up with something for myself. And so she said, why don't we do this? Why don't we really start this company? And I said, okay, just put me on it so that I have somewhere to focus my energy. And so we started we actually filled out the paperwork for the LLC that same day, because I felt like, okay, if I'm making this big decision, I have to know at the same time when I go to bed tonight that I am doing something else.
So you're not like me, so my first business, I'm one of those people that start so many things. I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, this is the thing now, it's social media now. And anyways, the ones that I thought I was passionate about, I would file the LLC that same night. And lo and behold, Mother, honestly, I think we just filed our LLC maybe this week.
Yeah.
It's taken. But it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, bless them, you start things and you never get it done. Maybe this is just a fluke. And I'm like, oh, the summit is coming. Oh shit, we need to make this legitimate. So thank you so much. So you have a wonderful, obviously Drought Juice is extremely successful, and you ladies have built something from the ground up. And I see Drought everywhere.
Yeah, it didn't just happen out of nowhere. We are in our 8th year. Some people are surprised to learn that. In addition, one of the things that we always talk about is how not glamorous it is, and when you're starting your own project or when you just want to start a business, the exciting part, the honeymoon phase of getting your logo made and getting your website, doing all these things. But there's so much more to it. What we ran into, when we decided we really wanted to take the plunge and start this business, my sisters moved back from New York, and we realized that the reality of the amount of time and energy we needed required us to not actually have a second job at the same time and just dump everything into that. So we all moved back in with my parents. I moved back into my like childhood bedroom, but with my daughter. And I was like, I won't be here more than 3 months, and I was there for 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
So these things that I think that feel very uncomfortable in terms of having it all or supporting your professional life alongside raising your children. Sometimes you have to do the not glamorous things. You have to stop driving the car you want to drive. You have to forego a few of the things that you.
And so one of the reasons why we invited you here first is because when Drought started, you were the only one with a baby. So you were basically dragging this girl everywhere.
When we had our first shop, she slept. I made like a little makeshift bed behind our front counter, and I would like set up a little iPad and be like, okay, be quiet when people come in, and try to, you know. But she grew up in the business, and she's learned a lot, and she, yeah.
So what advice do you have for somebody that, you know, obviously has an idea, or a brilliant idea like Drought, and they have a 3-year-old at the time, or a 2-year-old? Like, what advice do you have for them? How should they even start?
Well, first of all, I would just recommend figuring out what life you want. So, you know, you might have this dream, like, okay, I want to do this, but then maybe something that's very important to you is that you always have your weekends to yourself. You have to reconcile exactly like what your project is how it's going to affect your life. And then also make sure that you have a really good support system. That might sound basic, but the only reason Drought is because of my sisters and my parents letting us stay rent-free, you know, in our adult years in their home. And then I would also say, you know, really finding a mentor in your field, and it could just be a positive girlfriend or guy friend, or anybody that can just support you, because there are going to be so many more challenging days than easy, awesome wins. It's more of that. So having someone who's going to support you and you can bounce things off of is really important.
So I love that you brought mentorship into this, because my mentor is back there. Say hi. It's okay, I put her on the spot. She's gonna be on the stage soon. So I'm the kind of person where I struggle with asking people to be my mentor. So how do you go about seeking mentorship for something very strategic, right? Like, I'm trying to start a business, I'm trying to grow that business, I have a child, I have a baby. How do you go about finding that strategic and even maybe personal mentorship?
I mean, I'm a little more kind of cosmic and things like that, where I feel like the right person is going to align with me based on their availability and what I have going on in my life. My sisters and I kind of just didn't turn down any meetings for the first few years of having our business, and a lot of those relationships have kind of found their way back into our life when it was appropriate. I think you'll realize that the people you want to be around, and this is just how we run our business. We like to be in business and work with people that we like to be around. There have been plenty of opportunities where we're like, whoa, that's an awesome business, you know, opportunity, and this is fun, but then it's like, cool, and the only way to work it out is if you go out for cocktails every night. And we're like, okay, well, yeah, I don't have time for that. So finding someone that you just like being around and that is willing to kind of work around your schedule, have evening calls, or you know, meet with you with your kid running around. That's always something that
I take my daughter everywhere. She's here today. I take her everywhere. I'm like, are kids allowed? Sometimes I don't even ask anymore. I'm like,
we don't ask
you have to be able to allow a human being here. You know, like she is. Oh, like she's human. She can be here. I have zero mom guilt when it comes to dragging my daughter everywhere. I take her to walk sometimes. Sorry, I can't find a babysitter, and we need to, you know, be at a meeting. I'll take that meeting and then I'll go off to doing what I need to do with her. And for me, I feel like women, we just have to be flexible, and we have to really know, like, we have to get rid of that mom shaming and mom guilt, and just do you. So let's go ahead and bring the one
bring out my other sidekicks.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming. All right, thank you so much for coming. I feel like, so the last time I saw you ladies all together, we were at your headquarters in Beverly Hills. So, and we had this mom power moment where we were all like, yes, the kids and this and that, it's so hard, it's so tough, but it's also rewarding. So, so please introduce yourself. You know, I mean, we know your sisters, obviously, but just tell us a little bit more about your background and why you decided to do business together.
My name is Caitlin James. I'm the CEO of Grout, a sister as well. And my background, I got my degree in special education, so I was working as a special ed teacher. My dad raised us more or less to be businessmen, and none of us were really interested in it. I was actually always turned off by business because I had this idea that like business was angry men. Literally, that was the only association, and so I was like, I'm going to do something altruistic, and and not that part of me has disappeared, but I just wasn't able to make that connection that like business could be something good and for women, et cetera, et cetera. So I went the kind of like nonprofit NGO route for the early part of my adulthood, and I was in the Peace Corps. I lived in Jordan for a few years, and I was teaching special ed there. And then I came home, as Julie said, and I was just like, that was such a challenging time for me that and there was lots of time to reflect on what I actually wanted to do and what I thought my abilities were. So really, without them, I think that my path would have been very different because it's difficult to know that you have options if you're the only one talking to yourself over and over again. So a lot of these ideas we bounced off each other, and after I came home, I was going to go to grad school and do all this stuff just to kind of keep myself busy, but without a real path. And push came to shove, and we started Grout.
My name's Jessie. My heart's beating out of my chest right now. It feels good to be surrounded by so many cool, empowering women. I was the hairstylist in New York. I had a career for like 10 years. And hold on, I have a cold hand to my hair. I was so super into the idea. Caitlin and I actually, we were the ones that would frequent a juice bar in New York and say, oh, we're gonna start a juice bar, that would be so cool. But I never had the intention of leaving my career and moving out of New York. I was having way too much fun, partying, whatever. And then I met my now wife there, and she was like, we should, do this, help your sisters, and let's just go home for like 2 weeks and help them. And so we went home for two weeks, and I ended up moving home into my parents' basement with her. It was the worst experience of my life, and the best at the same time. So we're still together, which is thankfully. Yep, and we have a baby, almost 2-year-old now, and it's amazing. But that's kind of how I got started with these gals, and then it was just like anything I always say, it's like a long-term relationship. In the beginning, it was amazing. We had so much fun. We were totally into it. And then you go through this hump of like, I hate you. Why are we doing this? Let's fucking call it quits. and then you get over that hump again. You're like, cool. All right, we got this. We're going somewhere. So now we're kind of to that point where we're like, we're 8 years in, and we can make this happen. And that's not to say that there haven't been a ton of challenges, but my hands are shaking, so I'm gonna stop.
So we had a conversation when I was at your office, and we were talking about how so many things have changed now that you're moms. So you guys started when you didn't have kids. Well, she had a daughter, but you guys didn't have kids, and then now it's like so many things have changed between that, when we just got started, and now you're real moms, like you're shuffling kids and going to PTA meetings and piano lessons and swing lessons, and you're still trying to raise capital for your business and expand and grow. So how has that been?
I would extremely stressful.
Yeah.
We have to be real. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think one of the things that women or parents have as a strong suit is after you have a child, I think you kind of get used to slowing down. You just have to surrender to like, okay, they threw up, they pooped their pants, they took their clothes off, they started an art project, what should take 10 minutes is like turning into a 3-hour ordeal. So for me, like getting funding and the trajectory and speed of our business, I think we've been, as women and mothers, a little like more prepared for it taking a little longer. Not to say that it always has to, but I think that has allowed us to just kind of settle into it and be patient and recognize that it's going to happen and we're going to stay the course. So
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main benefits of owning your own business is the fact that, you know, when there is these constant issues that come up when you have kids, I have two sons, that we have the ability to kind of press pause and say, okay, I can't go to work today, or I can come in late, or take them where they need to be. And I think that that's, you know, it's sometimes if you're looking at it solely from a business perspective, it's like, oh, shit, you know what I mean? Like, I wish I could actually just take that meeting that I made 3 times over, but I can't. But this is my priority. You know, my kids are my first priority, and the world isn't going to end, and hopefully my business doesn't go out of business because I don't show up to this. And you know, I certainly don't think it's any easier. I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, everyone lives on Instagram. They're like, you guys are killing it, and I was like, no, I feel like I'm dying sometimes. But you know, whatever people want to think, I think that it's very real. It's interesting. Someone came in to one of our stores, and we used to, so obviously, maybe it isn't obvious, but we started our business and we did everything in the beginning. Like, we made all the juice and, you know, literally everything. We made it all up from scratch. We made it up, period. And so a lot of our original customers were used to seeing us all the time and kind of were really offended that eventually they didn't see us because we had, you know, we aspired to kind of grow beyond working in our stores, and our employees now have the ability to iMessage us whenever, and so someone iMessaged me a couple months ago, and they're like, yeah, someone came in and they asked, you know, where are the sisters now? Like, are they just moms now? Like we just disappeared into space and became like nebulous moms. Just moms. So I mean, that was, you know, it's a little hurtful, but things like that always kind of put it in perspective. Like, yeah, we're moms and we're this and we're that. You know, you never say that to a dad. Like, let's be real. Like,
nobody goes to a guy and say, he's just a dad, you know?
No, of course not. So, you know, and I think, you know, those things are kind of in the back of your head, and they're worth acknowledging, but realizing you can very easily work past them as long as you don't let it get you down.
I love that. So question for you guys. Now that, you know, obviously drought is sort of in a upward trajectory, what challenges have you faced? Because one of the things that I like to talk about, Nicole and I, we talk about failures. Because, you know, a lot of people talk about success, and it's awesome to listen to success stories. I love listening to it all the time. But, you know, what failures or challenges have you faced because you're a mom? Can you think of anything that, you know, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is in the beginning. It's different now because we're kind of just pit bulls at this point. But in the beginning, it was people used to call us and say, hey, can I speak to your dad? Or can I speak to the man who owns the business? And that was always kind of like a blow, and we'd just get a little ticked, and then we'd get more ticked and more ticked and more ticked, and to the point where we're just like, we own the business, this is our thing, you know? So those types of things were just like, I wouldn't say failures, but we kind of overcome them.
And that happens to me all the time, because I'm a chemical engineer, and, you know, I would go into a meeting, and like, oh, can you go pour the coffee? Because all the guys are there, and you know, and I'm like, no, but I don't think you were receiving that $10 billion package. We will not be giving you that bid. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it's just, you know, people have this assumption that when they walk in and they see a powerful woman, they automatically believe that, you know.
Yeah, and
we'll call the dad, or we'll call the husband.
Our LLC is called Panther James, and everyone, when they first used to call it, they'd say, could I speak to Mr. James Panther? And this is the silly thing, but I mean, in terms of like being a mom, I'm not really sure.
I don't think we've experienced any failure from being moms.
That's amazing.
We experience failure every day. Actually massive failure every day.
That's why you don't call it failures, because you experience it every day and you just move on.
No, yeah, it's funny, we've been having a lot of these like really, you know, what we think are deep, meaningful, you know, esoteric conversations with a lot of our supervisors and managers lately, like trying to kind of figure out how to get them on our level, because the things that happen, I think it's very similar to parenthood and motherhood. Like, it's, you know, you think everything's fine, like, okay, everyone's finally not sick, and like a couple things are done, like, it's okay, today's gonna be great, and like, you know, shit hits the fan almost inevitably. It happens, the same thing happens in business, and a lot of people, you know, I think being a mom helps you deal with that in your business. It's like, I mean, literally every 48 hours, something really kind of dramatic happens in our business. And to a lot of people, I think that, 50% of the time it would be a reason to close your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
But we're just like, all right, we'll figure it out.
At this point, it's just like stamina. It's like, how much can we handle? How much can,
Yeah.
how much can we get?
So we'll take a question from the audience. Does anybody have a question for the Drought sisters? Panther James?
So I'm in the growth phase where I'm seriously thinking about taking out capital and expand the business. Any thoughts and ideas on that?
How far in are you? How many years?
We're 5 years old.
Okay. I would say that's a decent time to be in it. A lot of people say like, oh, I'm ready to take capital right away, and they haven't really
My
done.
husband's an eye baker, so he's been like, no money.
No money until you're, yeah. No, so that's smart. So that's a good time to take it. I would.
We don't have any outside investment still, and we've been in business for 8 years. I don't
We need outside
think
investment.
I was just gonna say, I don't think that that's that would be my advice. I think that probably around 5 years would have been a great time for us to take money, or right now. But honestly, since day one, it's always felt like, again, if we don't have more money, we can't do this. So, and we started with nothing. We literally, Julie loves the story that at one point, and I don't remember what year it was, it probably was only a couple
Our
years ago.
paychecks?
Yeah.
Our first paychecks, well, we weren't paying ourselves anything. And then we were like, okay, we have to pay ourselves something. And we kind of crunched the numbers and we realized that we could pay ourselves $50 a month. And I cut the checks and I remember tearing up being like, yes, we are finally
Profitable.
ourselves. You know what I mean? And then prior to that, no lie, we would dumpster dive the bagel shop next door to our little juice shop because we'd be like, we know those are fresh, we know the kid comes out every day at 3 p.m. and then one of us would scurry out there and get on. We even made an entire Thanksgiving meal with
Stuff we've done in garbage.
yeah. Well, no, it was like a produce. It was like a produce company.
Oh my God.
It was door-to-door organics. Do you guys remember door-to-door organics? Okay, so they would take
that
all
was
their
fancy.
blemish, right? They would take their blemish.
I mean, it was easy. You don't have to be embarrassed.
It was in boxes in the.
Anyway, back to your question, because it's not about us. No, I think only because we're going through it right now, we're actually trying to raise capital. I think that if you've seen some success without any investment and you're 5 years in and you have, a legitimate trajectory on your financial projections and you have a couple people that, can vouch for you, absolutely take money.
And just make sure you like the people you take money from. That's
Yeah,
the-
and don't give up more than
Yeah, because the thing about taking
49% of your
money is you give up a part of your company. And so for me, it's like, can you build it on your own? Like, what can you realistically do? What can you stretch? Where can you stretch yourself so that you're not, because as soon as you take in money, that person dictates how you run your business. And so you don't want to give up that autonomy. So for me, I'm like, do what you can until you really need it. So, all right, any more questions from the audience? Oh, we have one in the back.
How have you guys figured out how to divvy up roles and responsibilities and job titles and things like that?
I do everything.
That's funny because I do everything.
It kind of just fell into place. I think, in the beginning when we first started, it was like Keelan's really, frugal and good with money and boring. And she is really good with marketing and developed, where a bottle is going to look like and all that. And Jenny and I are just the youngest of 6 kids, so we just will do anything. So we all just fell into place, and then it evolved, and then, it went from there. It was never we didn't really have to have a conversation about it. I don't know if you want to add anything, but.
No, but we did very clearly define it, to her point, once we kind of started working more professionally with other businesses and mentors, especially if you're going to pitch your business to anyone, they don't really want to see 4 co-founders, because in most people's opinion, that's a lot of liability and expensive people that don't really do anything. So I would advise, make your own amazing title if you're making up a business. And that was the first thing we did, was we made business cards. I was like, I'm a CEO, and I didn't have
When
actually.
you make a business card, you're legitimate.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
We
pretty
didn't
much
even
all.
have juice though.
Can we take one more question or?
Yes.
Okay, because we have one person there. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you for your products. They're delicious. I guess my question, and it might be something to think about, and you can tell me later. So I'm a special ed teacher. I was in the classroom for 16 years. I took a leave 4 years ago to be home with my kids, and I'm starting to get a little punchy. I have no idea what I want to do, but I know I want to do something different. And I've talked to a couple of women here that are in the same boat, that we have no idea what we can do when we've always just done one thing. So for each of you, because you came from 3 totally different backgrounds, what was the one thing that you thought was the best thing you did for yourself to get this going?
I mean, mine personally was just that, mine was much more about like how I felt about myself. Like I said, it had nothing to do with juice. I knew I was a vibrant, outgoing, energetic person, and at that point in my life, I was like, I am not anything like the kind of person I know that I am. And so, for me, it was just simply making a life change. It wasn't like, the business, yes, it kind of like gave me that extra, push, and it made me feel good about myself. But just removing myself from a toxic situation was like the one step. I think we live in a culture now where it's like, what do you do? What's coming next? What's going to be on your Instagram? Where are you vacationing next? Whatever. But sometimes the changes we have to make are just like very small, incremental. It doesn't have to be like I found my passion overnight and I started a business. It's like I dropped that friend that sucks the energy out of me every weekend. And that's why I have a little more time to do what makes me feel like myself. And then you'll find that. And then you'll start hanging out with people that give you the energy to, uncover your passions. But I think it should just be incremental rather than
That's an life changer. I love it. Yeah.
Mine was just, I just wanted to be in control of my life. I think with being a hairstylist, it was actually easy to kind of do that because you're like an artist or whatever, and then you like get to do hair and, run your own show, but then you still have a boss and whatever. And for me, it was a little bit more like, I'm the daddy kind of, like in my relationship, like I have to, if I want to have a family and like expect my wife to stay home with the kid, like I have to, provide for that. So I don't know, that's kind of, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say, but for me it was just like I need to do this for myself and for my family. And I don't think it matters what you do as long as it's just like something you're really into.
Yeah, and if you're looking for something, maybe in a different route from special education, I always tell people, just think about what you're good at. Like, I'm a chemical engineer, but I know that I love, inspiring people, and I love to, just share my truth about what motherhood is, what empowerment is. So for me, I just decided, what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I'm really good at. So think about, it may just be something simple as, maybe writing a blog or taking pictures.
Well, I did apply to a job as mother, honestly.
Oh, you did? So after the summit, you'll be hearing more. But no, seriously, yeah, think about what you're good at and just go after it. Go after it, prove yourself, and make it happen.
If they don't hire you, we'll take you.
Oh, yeah.
My husband will be thrilled.
All
And
right.
my kids, they're probably sick of me.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to hand this over to Nicole.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.